news, a convicted child rapist is expected to appear in the Kempton Park Magistrate Court today on charges relating to child pornography. The accused is currently serving a 5-year suspended sentence for the rape of a minor. eNCA's Masego Rahlaga is tracking that story for us this morning. Masego, a very good morning to you. Well, this accused is serving a suspended sentence for the rape of a child and now is appearing again in court on a different charge.
Well, Bradan, we actually found out when we called some people from advocacy group Women and Men Against Child Abuse, and we found out that it actually wasn't even the rape of one child, Bradan. It was he was actually convicted of the rape of a number of children, and of course, you know, that sentence being suspended for 5 years, he was at house arrest. And this type of case reminds you, Bradan, of, for instance, cases such as that of Tasnie van Zyl in Cape Town, who allegedly was raped and murdered, allegedly by a man who was out on parole, who had 11 convictions. And then if we go to Limpopo, if you remember that story of Precious Ramabolana, who was stabbed multiple times until she died in her res room, that man apparently has convictions as well and was out on parole. So, you know, Begitele, when it comes to a case of Tasnie van Zyl, admitting that, you know, law enforcement authorities as well as government failed that little girl. But let me go to our guest, Bradan, from that advocacy group. Thank you so much, Mr. Moromozi, for joining us. You're live on eNCA. You know, last month, the body of a little girl in Cape Town was found. She had been raped and murdered allegedly by a man who was her neighbor and who had been out on parole. Now we see a case like this. I mean, your reaction to some of these cases that we find when it comes to abuse against women and children?
Well, Masego, you've painted a very accurate picture. Tasnie was one of them, the father who killed the 4 children in Limpopo. We've got the girl killed in Res. And we're all seeing that these are groups of people, these are victims that have had these heinous acts acted upon them by people who the justice system should have ensured are away. Now, today we are here for somebody who was serving a 5-year suspended sentence for the rape and sexual assault of 5 minor children aged between 10 and 15. Now, Masego, our minimum prescribed sentence for the rape of a minor child is a life sentence. So we are asking, why is this man, having been convicted of these crimes, out and about in our streets? A suspended sentence is practically house arrest. It is nothing, especially in light of the crime that he had committed. So today we're here because now he has been arrested yet again for crimes against children. And as Women and Men Against Child Abuse, we maintain that child pornography is not a victimless crime. These are children, be it that they cannot immediately be identified, they are still children. Now, this is a man who has been arrested for possession of child pornography. He was convicted of sexual crimes against children. He was given a 5-year suspended sentence, and the president has called for stringent measures to be put in place for people who are accused of crimes of sexual violence against women and children. Now we're saying, Mr. President, we're saying law enforcement, we're saying our justice system, how are we going to effect this when here we are for somebody who has been convicted of such a serious crime and he has not been to jail? He has been released into the community, and now we're saying we need to send a very strong message, firstly that he must not be granted bail, but for the general society that our justice system needs to start implementing sentences that are reflective of crime, but sentences that put criminals away. Otherwise, we're having our children, the most vulnerable of our societies, falling victims to these predators, and we can't be having that.
Just for clarity, this man was convicted of the rape of 5 minor children. His sentence was suspended for 5 years. Now, what he's arrested for and what we're here for today, is this something that happened after that conviction?
That is correct. So in 2015, because it's a 5-year sentence, he was convicted in the Vanderbilt court of these rape and sexual offences crimes. Now, the reason he wasn't granted bail upon his arrest, because there was initial comment that all 5 of the arrested accused had been granted bail. That is not correct. He remains in custody because the magistrate now wants to see the judgment to understand why he was released out. Now, this is a separate offence to that 5-year conviction.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, Bradan, you know, that's the bleak situation that we find ourselves in sometimes in South Africa. And I've heard quite a couple of times with some of the cases that I've covered, police also saying, look, we make the arrests, but once we've given the case to the National Director of Public Prosecutions and it goes to court, we are not there when the judge makes the decision on the sentence for that accused or that convicted child rapist or wife beater, you name it.